The first thing he did was grab me like I owed him money. Not gently. Not politely. He yanked me into the aisle so hard my shoes stayed behind for half a second like they were reconsidering life. My head bounced off the cart, drinks went airborne, and orange juice baptized the carpet like this was some kind of violent church service. Passengers screamed. Not movie screams. Real ones. The kind that make grown men curl inward like folding chairs. Then the gun came out. Not aimed at me. At a kid. Click. Right. By his face. The blade followed, slow, deliberate, close enough that the kid stopped crying because fear hit a higher gear. The hijacker smiled and said, "Everyone stay calm, unless you want her to look worse." Then he kicked me. Hard. Not strategic. Not necessary. Just because he could. "Get up," he said. "Serve drinks. That's all you're good for." And while I was still tasting carpet, he keyed the cockpit intercom and started negotiating like he was ordering pizza. "Captain, listen carefully," he said. "You're going to keep this plane steady, quiet, and obedient. Or I start sending body parts to first class." The pilot's voice came back shaking. "Sir, please, there are children on board." The hijacker laughed. "Then you should fly better." Passengers were crying, praying, texting goodbye messages they knew wouldn't send. Before you scroll past, like this video. Subscribe. Because stories like this don't surface unless people choose them. And whatever you think happens next, this plane is about to get a lot quieter. They didn't even bother tying me up. That's how small they thought I was. One of them shoved me toward the galley and said, "Stay useful. Not stay alive. Not don't move. Useful. Like a mop. Like luggage." Passengers watched me the way people watch someone else's problem. Eyes full of pity, already practicing how they'd explain my death later. "She's new," someone whispered behind me. I heard it. I heard everything. The hijackers heard it too. One of them smirked and said, "First flight, huh? Figures." Another added, almost casually, "Yeah, she was supposed to be here." I froze for half a second. Not visibly. Not enough for anyone to notice. But my ears caught it. "Supposed to be here?" He said it again when he thought no one was listening. Timing's perfect. Perfect for what? They treated me like I was already written off. Like paperwork. Like a checkbox. One of them shoved a cup into my hand so hard it spilled on my sleeve. Didn't even apologize. "Clean that," he said. "And don't get any ideas." Ideas. Like I was capable of them. In the cabin, panic settled into something heavier. That quiet, choking fear where people stop crying and start bargaining with whatever God still answers at 30,000 feet. A man clutched his phone like it could save him. A woman prayed out loud until another passenger begged her to stop. A kid kept asking if the plane was landing soon. No one answered him. And every time the hijackers passed me, they didn't look at my face. They looked through me. Disposable. Replaceable. Already gone. One of them leaned in close and muttered, "Don't worry. When this is over, none of this will be your problem anymore." He laughed when he said it. So did the others. And that's when I understood something was wrong. Not with the hijacking. With me. Because this didn't feel random. It felt scheduled. The plane didn't calm down. It settled. That's worse. That's when fear stops screaming and starts thinking. One hijacker planted himself near the cockpit door, pacing like he owned the sky. Another walked the aisle, blade out, tapping seatbacks as if counting inventory. Tap, tap, tap. Every sound landed heavier than the last. They started negotiating out loud. Not shouting. Not panicking. Calm. Professional. "Funds go through 3 accounts," one of them said into the satellite phone. "Crypto first. Then wire. No delays." He glanced at the passengers while he spoke. Like he wanted them to understand they were currency. In the cockpit, one pilot was restrained. I saw him through the cracked door. Wrists bound. Jaw tight. eyes flicking toward the cabin every time a child made a sound. The other pilot? Too calm. Too cooperative. His voice came through the intercom, steady and obedient. Altitude steady. Fuel within projected range. We're right on schedule. Schedule. That word didn't belong there. One hijacker smiled and replied, "Good. You're doing exactly what you said." Exactly. Not what we told you. What you said. I felt it then, that slow, crawling unease that slides under your skin when something doesn't line up. I didn't look at the cockpit. I didn't react. I just listened. The hijackers argued numbers now. One wanted more money. One wanted speed. One kept asking about timing. Authorities are stalling, the restrained pilot said, voice tight. Procedure. The hijacker laughed. Procedure gets people killed. Passengers were unraveling. A man sobbed silently into his jacket. A woman pressed her forehead to the seat in front of her like she was trying to disappear through it. Someone vomited and no one complained. Fear had turned the cabin into something hollow. Every few minutes, the hijackers reminded us. You're still alive because we're still talking. And every time they said it, the plane felt smaller. Closer. Like the walls were leaning in to listen. I moved through the aisle, cleaning spills that didn't matter, collecting cups no one touched. Invisible. Unimportant. Except, every time the pilot spoke, every time the hijackers answered, it sounded rehearsed. Like lines being hit. Cues being followed. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask questions. I just remembered the words. Because chaos doesn't usually sound this organized. If you're still watching, comment where you're watching from. Because what you're seeing right now is not random. They stopped talking numbers. That's how I knew it was about to get worse. One of them walked down the aisle slow, dragging the blade along the seat backs like he was underlining names. When he stopped, it wasn't near me. It was near a kid. Same kid from before. The blade hovered by the boy's cheek. Close enough to steal his breath. The crying didn't come back. Fear had pushed him past that. His eyes went wide and empty like he'd already left the room. Say something, the hijacker said to the cabin. No, he smiled. Then we change incentives. They moved again, this time toward a pregnant woman in the middle rows. 7 months, maybe more. You could tell by the way she stood when they yanked her up, slow, careful, already apologizing for taking space. She begged. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet, panicked words that kept tripping over each other. Please, please, my baby. The hijacker tightened his grip. The cabin broke. People shouted. Someone tried to stand and got slammed back into their seat. Another gun appeared. The sound of it, metal on plastic, cut through everything. And that's when I stepped forward. Not fast. Not brave-looking. Just enough to be noticed. Take me, I said. The words surprised even me with how calm they sounded. Leave her. Take me instead. The hijacker looked at me. Then he smiled. Not confused. Not suspicious. Relieved. Yeah, he said immediately. That works. Too immediate. The others nodded like this solved something they'd already discussed. Bring her, one of them said. Gently, another added, almost amused. They shoved the pregnant woman back into her seat like she was an inconvenience and grabbed me by the arm. No debate. No hesitation. No argument over leverage. Just decision made. As they dragged me forward, I caught it. That look they shared. The look of people checking a box. And the question hit me harder than the grip on my arm. Why did that feel expected? They grabbed my arm and started pulling me forward. That's when someone broke. A man in the back, big shoulders, shaking hands, stood up too fast and yelled, "Now!" And for half a second, just half, the cabin believed. Seats exploded open. Bodies surged into the aisle. A laptop swung like a brick. Someone tackled one of the hijackers from the side. For one beautiful, stupid heartbeat, it looked possible. Then reality answered. A blade flashed. Blood sprayed across a window. Someone screamed like they were being torn in half, because they were. The gun went off. Not at a person. Into the ceiling. The sound crushed the cabin flat. Pressure slammed down. Ears rang. People dropped instantly, hands over heads, faces to the floor. The rebellion collapsed in less than 5 seconds. One man lay curled in the aisle, red soaking through his shirt. Another was dragged backward by his hair, crying for his wife. The one who yelled now didn't yell anymore. The hijacker kicked him hard, then pressed the gun to his head and looked around the cabin. "Didn't I tell you?" he shouted. Voice shaking, not with fear, with rage. "I told you. She's the problem." Every eye turned to me. Passengers. Hijackers. Even the pilot through the cracked door. I stood there, hands restrained, breathing steady, while fear rerouted itself. Not at the men with weapons. At me. The hijacker shoved the gun harder against the man's skull and yelled, "This happens because you don't listen. This happens because you get ideas." Then he nodded toward me. "And this happens because she exists." The gun fired again into the ceiling, showering dust and insulation down like dirty snow. People sobbed. Someone vomited. Someone prayed out loud and didn't stop this time. And in the silence that followed, something locked into place. They weren't just controlling the plane anymore. They were controlling the story. And somehow, I was at the center of it. They started arguing. Not loud. Not yet. The kind of argument people have when they think the room is already broken beyond caring. One of them leaned too close to the other and hissed, "Just stick to the plan." The other snapped back. The plan wouldn't be shaky if she hadn't rushed it. She didn't rush anything. "Oh, really?" A bitter laugh. "She wouldn't even be here if SG hadn't been fired." That word hit harder than the gunshot. Fired. Another hijacker froze, eyes darting toward me before he could stop himself. "What are you talking about?" he said. "You said this was clean." It was, the first one spat. It was her plan. Frame the new girl. Make it clean. My chest tightened. Not fear. Recognition. They kept going, too angry now to notice me listening. She knew the procedures, one said. Knew where the gaps were. What would look like incompetence instead of sabotage. Uniform logs. Shift timing. Cabin access records. Everything leads back to her, another added. By the time investigators figure it out, she's the perfect fall. The new girl. Me. The humiliation from earlier, the kicks, the insults, the way they'd treated me like trash. It wasn't random cruelty. It was insurance. They needed me to look weak. Inexperienced. Panicked. Someone authorities would blame without thinking twice. A mistake that made sense. My hands clenched behind the restraints. So that's why I was supposed to be here. That's why the timing was perfect. I wasn't collateral. I was the cover story. And somewhere, far away from this screaming metal tube in the sky, someone who used to wear this uniform was watching it all unfold. Satisfied. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The calm pilot. The phrasing. The timing. It all snapped together in my head like a trap closing. Another call crackled through the cockpit speaker. The pilot's voice came through again, steady, almost bored. Position unchanged. Cabin behavior within expected range. We're still aligned. Aligned. One of the hijackers nodded and said, "That's what she said." I stopped breathing. The others leaned in, voices dropping. Did she confirm the delay? Yeah. She's watching the feeds. She said authorities are right where she predicted. Feeds. Plural. Then the line that turned my stomach cold. She said if we stick to the script, the blame dies with her. Not us. Her. The pilot glanced back through the cracked door. Not panicked. Not trapped. Checking. Reporting. I saw his hand move, subtle, practiced. Adjusting a switch that didn't need adjusting. Buying time. Sending confirmation. The fired attendant wasn't just involved. She was conducting. From somewhere safe. from her couch, from behind a screen, coaching them when to escalate, when to threaten, when to use me. And the pilot, someone everyone trusted by default, was her eyes in the sky. That's when I understood the real shape of the enemy. Not 3 men with weapons, but coordination. Layers. People who never had to get their hands dirty. The hijackers started arguing again, money this time. One wanted more. One wanted out. The pilot didn't intervene. He just listened. And for the first time since this began, the script slipped. Not enough for anyone else to notice. Enough for me. Because when people get greedy, they stop following instructions. And when coordination breaks, windows open. I didn't move. Didn't look up. I just waited. Because now I knew exactly who was hunting me. And exactly how quiet I'd need to be when I hunted back. Money changes people. It changed them faster than fear ever could. The ransom number jumped. Sudden and reckless. One of them laughed when he said it, like this was finally worth the risk. Another didn't laugh. We agreed on the first number, he snapped. Too high and they stall. They're already stalling, the first shot back. Why not bleed them harder? The third hijacker shifted, uneasy. We get paid and disappear. That was the deal. Whose deal? Ours. Their voices climbed. Not shouting yet, but sharp. Impatient. The pilot's calm voice came through again, trying to smooth it out. Stick to the timeline, he said. Don't improvise. One hijacker waved him off. Relax. She's not here. That sentence did it. Because while they argued numbers and exits and blame, they stopped looking at me. No one tightened my restraints. No one repositioned the blade. No one checked my hands. Their attention turned inward. Greed cracked the circle. One hijacker stepped away to argue with the pilot over the intercom. Another paced, muttering about cutting losses. The third stared out a window like he could already see the money waiting. Signals went unanswered. Cues got skipped. The script unraveled. I lowered my gaze. Slowed my breathing. Let the noise cover the quiet things. Friction of tape against skin. Weight shift. Distance measured in steps, not courage. No speeches. No hero moments. Just timing. Because when predators start fighting over meat, they forget to watch the trap. And for the first time since this began, I wasn't being handled. I was being ignored. That was enough. The first one never saw me move. He was still arguing, half-turned, mouth open, hand loose on the blade, when I shifted my weight and stepped into him. Not a swing. Not a shove. A sharp, efficient collision. His breath left first. His balance followed. He folded down instead of falling, knees hitting the aisle like they'd been unplugged. I guided him the rest of the way, head low, body quiet, until the sound stopped. No scream. The second one reacted late. Too late. He reached for his weapon and found my shoulder instead. I closed the distance before panic could finish loading in his eyes. Wrist trapped. Elbow turned. Pressure. He dropped without drama, limbs betraying him like they'd changed sides. Still breathing. Still alive. Not a threat. The third one froze. That's the worst thing you can do. He went for the gun. I was already there. No hesitation. No adjustment. One clean movement. He collapsed sideways into the seats, eyes wide, air gone, decision finished. It took seconds. Not heroic seconds. Not cinematic ones. Just the amount of time it takes for chaos to realize it's lost. The cabin went silent. Not relief. Not cheering. Shock. Passengers stared at me like the laws of physics had shifted mid-flight. Mouths open. Hands still raised. Prayers cut off mid-word. No one moved. No one clapped. Even the baby didn't cry. The plane kept flying. But the noise was gone. And in that silence, everyone understood the same thing at once. Whatever I was before this moment didn't matter. Because whatever just happened had ended it. I didn't look back at the cabin. I didn't need to. Silence meant compliance. I stepped over the bodies and walked straight to the cockpit. The door was still cracked, like it had been waiting for me. The pilot looked up. For the first time since this started, his face betrayed him. Not fear. Calculation failing. "What did you do?" he asked. I closed the door behind me. That sound, the latch clicking into place, hit him harder than anything else. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten him. I just said, "Stand up." He didn't. I said, "Stand up." His hands hovered over the controls like muscle memory was fighting survival. His jaw tightened. He swallowed. "You don't understand what you're interrupting," he said. This was supposed to end clean. There it was. I leaned closer, not aggressive, just inevitable. "Unstrap," I said. His composure cracked. "Just a hairline fracture, but enough." "She said," he started. "Unstrap." His fingers shook as he obeyed. The restraints on the other pilot were still tight, cutting into skin that had gone pale from lack of circulation. I freed him first. "Fly," I told him. "Do not speak unless I ask." Then I took the seat. The controls felt right. Familiar. Centered. The pilot I'd confronted backed away like the ground had shifted under him. I reached for the radio. No speech. No identity. Just truth. "Mayday. This is flight ______. Hijack neutralized. Internal compromise confirmed. Request immediate priority landing." Silence. Then a voice, sharper now. "Alert. Flight _____. Confirm hijack status." I didn't look at the man behind me. "Confirmed," I said. "Suspect secured. Cabin stable." Another pause. "Flight _____. You are cleared, priority approach. Maintain heading. Emergency services standing by." I acknowledged once and cut the channel. No explanations yet. Those come later. Behind me, the compromised pilot sank into a seat, breathing fast, eyes fixed on the instrument panel like it might save him. It wouldn't. The plane banked gently. Controlled. Obedient. For the first time since takeoff. No one else was pretending to be in charge. The runway came up fast. Too fast for anyone to process what had just ended. The wheels hit. Harder than a normal landing. Not rough, final. Reverse thrust screamed. The cabin lurched. Someone sobbed with relief and immediately covered their mouth like they'd broken a rule. We rolled to a stop. No applause. Just breath returning to bodies that had forgotten how to take it. Red and blue lights flooded the windows. Vehicles everywhere. Men running with purpose. The door opened and the noise rushed in. "FBI. Stay seated." Hands visible. They moved fast, trained fast, stepping over what used to be threats and now looked like paperwork. I stood where I was. Didn't speak. Didn't point. Didn't explain. I didn't need to. They already had it. Phones buzzing with intercepted calls. Bank alerts lighting up screens. Live messages pulled from cloud backups that someone forgot to wipe. A voice recording played through a headset near the cockpit. Her voice. Calm. Certain. Stick to the script. The blame dies with her. Agents didn't look at me when they heard it. They followed the trail. Out of the plane. Across jurisdictions. Into a living room where someone thought distance meant safety. The fired attendant was taken in before the cabin door fully opened. The pilot didn't make it past the stairs. They pulled him aside quietly at first. Then not quietly at all when the financial transfers surfaced. His face drained as fast as the color from the sky. Passengers watched from their seats, stunned, trying to reconcile terror with resolution. Someone whispered my name. I didn't answer. I stood there, hands empty, uniform torn, breathing steady. While the story collapsed around the people who thought they'd written it. I didn't celebrate. I didn't explain. I just watched the last leg get handcuffed and led away. And for the first time since this began, I was no one's problem anymore. They tried to talk to me. Agents. supervisors, people with clipboards and urgency in their voices. I let them. I just didn't answer right away. Because for the first time since boarding that plane, no one was telling me what to do. The passengers filed past slow, stunned. Some thanked me. Some couldn't look at me at all. Fear does that. It rewires memory. A senior agent finally stopped in front of me and asked the question everyone else was thinking. Where did you learn to do that? I looked past him. Past the flashing lights. Past the cameras that had already started circling the story. And for a moment, I considered saying nothing, letting the silence do the work. But silence doesn't end hunts. It only delays them. So I gave him just enough. Before I wore this uniform, I said. I wore another one. That was it. No dates. No titles. No history lesson. Just the truth, trimmed to the bone. The agent didn't push. He didn't need to. Because behind him, the investigation was already peeling backward. Through flight records. Through personnel files. Through places I hadn't thought about in years. What I was going to surface whether I helped or not. I straightened my jacket, felt the tear in the sleeve, and stepped off the plane. Not as a hero. Not as a victim. Just as someone who finished what was started. If this story stayed with you, like the video. Subscribe. Because next time, the betrayal won't come from strangers.